JC, are you a big are you advocate of like picking like 3 words, for example, to like at the start of a project? So if you were coming up for a new concept for a sports car, for example, and you come like I don't know, French Riviera luxury, for example, do you follow that sort of mantra?
Actually, more when I was in California, this started to be very important to me because I landed in California as a sort of VW manager from Wolfsburg, and then I took the exterior design position from Sang-Yup Lee, who moved to Bentley at the time. So I really had to organize proper briefing, so to say. Not that everybody was sketching in the same direction. So I would separate 3 ideas of 3 design directions: a little bit more Italian romantic, a little bit more chiseled, a little more progressive, whatever. So this was very important. But nowadays, more than giving the designers this sort of wording, to me, it's important to talk to marketing people, strategy people, to understand the role of a product in the lineup, price target, cost, client. Who are we designing this car for? This is maybe a higher level of questions, and then I leave the designers a little bit more free to organize their own presentations. So when they come, they have their own set of ideas, and they say, "Oh, I wanted this, I wanted that." So I keep them really free. But my discussion is more on the corporation level to understand. Last week I had a discussion with the marketing lady. I was like, "Yeah, but what kind of car? You're saying you want this, and that, but maybe it doesn't fit the price, and we want a different price. And what do you guys want?" And it's very difficult because we have the talent to visualize whatever the company brings to you. I usually make this joke in the VW. I say, "Look, I'm the pizza maker, okay? But just give me good ingredients. If you give me shit ingredients, I will give a shitty pizza." It's like this is my fight, basically.
That's a really interesting analogy. I think the question was more aimed at like just like from a personal standpoint with regards to not maybe in a managerial sense, but like I'll give you an example. Like a friend of mine is a designer now at Tesla, but he was at Volvo, and he designed the first, the XC40, and he came up with these 3 words like "tough little robot," and this was a kind of a personal thing that he came up with, and it kind of gave him at any given point, if he felt like he was getting lost in his thought process, that helped him anchor his vision into where he should be going. That's kind of what I meant.
Okay, I have 2 examples maybe for you. The T-Roc. The T-Roc final design was executed by Marco Giumentaro and my brother from the exterior side.
Yeah.
But I came up with the concept. My model was chosen when I was in California by Dr. Winterkorn at the time. And it was a silly idea, honestly, if you look back. I was sketching, and this is something I learned from Walter De Silva. He told me once, "JC, the car has to have a message. It has to tell you something. Even if it's ugly, if it's shit, it has to say something." And I was always thinking, And then I was sketching something for this small SUV. And at the time, Wolfsburg they had too many SUVs to design. And sometimes they were just replicating, I think at the time, Wolfsburg came up with this kind of a little bit smaller Tiguan proportion. But I said, no, okay, I will combine Beetle fenders with Golf C-pillar. 2 major icons from VW. Round fog lights. The show car had round fog lights, and I just kind of silly approach, but I sold this idea to Sang-Yup at the time in California. I said, "Look, I just want people to look at the car and smile. Okay, that's it. Doesn't have to be like a truck running over your face. A little bit of sympathy, and that was it. When I remember, my son was, I think, 2 months old. Was 4 in the morning. I was giving him, like some milk and with a little bottle, and my brother called me from Barcelona where the cars were being presented, and he was like, "Oh, JC, your model was chosen, man. Fuck, cool, really good. Guys were very happy. Model was super fresh." But I put in my mind that I wanted something with sympathy, beetle fenders, Golf C-pillar. And if you look, the first car is really like that. The show car had kind of beetle fenders, of course. In Wolfsburg, they adjusted. Marco Giumentaro did an exceptional job, of course. They translated in a little bit bigger proportion after. But the original thing came from this kind of thinking, because I think, particularly on this project, they were really busy with other, and they presented a sort of baby Tiguan, and my proposal was different. Is that a good example, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was.
Yeah.
No, and they were both great examples.
No,
But
I have another one. When I got here in Brazil, the product planning, they wanted to develop a car over the Polo platform, but it was a kind of unclear, And I always tell my guys, I said, look, we are the eyes of the company. We are the light. We put lights. We can show how the products can look like when everybody's talking about position, cost, material cost, product margin. We can visualize. We can show something. And particularly on the Nivus product, the recent launch, and it's going to be called Taigo in Europe soon. VW wanted to have kind of a cross polo version, and I was like, no, nobody needs a cross polo. Let's try something. And this Nivus model, at the beginning, I had two words in my mind, like, again, super basic, but for the segment was something new. I wanted something kind of cross-looking with the coupe roof. In a polo class, nobody has that. It's a kind of democratization of super expensive coupes into a polo category. And then I presented to my bosses, and I discussed with Wolfsburg. Okay. Finally, we organized a presenter to Dr. D's in Brazil. And he came, he looked at the car, and said, wow, good idea. You're using a lot of Polo components, but you change completely the front, you extend the back, parts from the Skoda platform, super cool silhouette, connected taillights at this price, between Polo and T-Cross. Cool. But I was focused on finding something that nobody has, a little bit different. Of course, in a very limited scenario, South America, and the entry-level cars, of course, always very difficult. But this kind of setting few words on paper, yes, I think those are my best examples.
JC, do you have a notion of normally sketching like as many ideas as possible, and then saying like pick your favorite one, or do you kind of get quite focused on like 3 or 4 ideas and go like, these are my 2 favorites?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I think it depends on your age. When I was in Wolfsburg, like 25 years old, I could go to a review with 10 nice proposals, beautifully rendered, and when I moved to California, I had a little different role, but and now till today, I always send my proposals with my team. Sometimes I don't even sign, but they really like that I do that. They really, sometimes they feel like, wow, fuck, JC, you did one, and it's really cool. But it has to do with 2 things. I'm getting old, of course, energy. I don't have time to spend the whole day sketching, but after working so many years with modelers, you know exactly what works on paper and what not. And you know exactly the areas you're going to have a problem with, legislation, pedestrian safety, packaging, all this stuff. And naturally, you start being less creative. And there lays our major challenge, to step back a little, see proposals from young kids that you go like, oh my God, this doesn't work. Okay, but let him try something more. But in the recent years, I was like one or two proposals and bang. And but in the early days, I was producing a lot in order to make sure I would win a scale model or a CAD model or a full size. I was like, oh, come on, bosses, diversity. I have whatever you want. A good example is the North American Passat from 2010. The car doesn't have anything to do with me. The drawings I was sketching like muscle cars, but I had the flexibility to work to whatever the bosses were really trying to do. I was very young. I was working good on full sizes. At the end, I felt like, didn't do really, but I was too young. So it's really difficult to find this balance, to be mature enough to have good themes, how to execute, to convince people. It's really tough. It's really tough. But yeah, I think at the beginning, everybody produces a lot, and that's kind of normal.
Do you remember what you were focusing on when you kind of hit that feeling in your early days when you're like, shit, I'm not good enough? Like what sort of things you were doing to get better? Obviously there were people in the studio that you could kind of reference, but were you just incessantly just drawing more and more? Did you go and approach other designers in the studio? What sort of things did you do?
Well,
Or did you just go home and cry?
yeah, at the beginning, just going home. No, I was trying to understand why. First of all, I was feeling that. I was always questioning why. For example, at the very early days of Mercedes, I was in the second year industrial design. I haven't had illustration techniques at the time, so I was suffering to
Yes.
represent light and shadow. But I was being creative. One day, my boss was like, "Did you have illustration classes already?" I was like, "Oh no, just basic drawing." And then I put a little bit of this. I was not feeling guilty, and I said, "Okay, I will have the classes, but I have to look how this guy is doing." We were at the time back then drawing this kind of canson paper, blue, like Giugiaro used to do in the 70s. White pencil markers was really kind of artistic representation. There was one computer in the studio, people could check their emails, so we had to draw big to put on the wall. This was like really tough to me, so I was trying to understand and to observe, but I had this idea that the sketches should be just super fast and expressive, and I could do that really good. But depending on the phase of the project, we need to represent the ideas in a more structured, mature, realistic way. And this is where I was failing. So I had to understand. So later on in my career, I was able to do like super fast, expressive until super tight renderings because I understood that each phase needed something. That's why sometimes I don't like when the first review somebody brings super realistic rendering. Yeah, you want to ask something?
No, I was just saying that's also a really, really important point. And I think that like different different phases of the project
Yeah.
requires different things.
Yeah.
Could you just elaborate on that a little bit for like younger people starting out? Like what you, and again, it's subjective, so you're not going to get shot for saying the wrong answer. There are no wrong answers. But you personally, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I just think it's a matter of time and resources according to the project phase. If I talk to my team and I say, look, we have to think of a tiny little car, 4 doors for the city, uh, smaller than the Polo, for instance. first review, I would like just to understand a little bit of architecture, just some pencil drawings, and I do that to make their lives easier. I said, guys, don't bring me side view super rendered now. First of all, find the soul of the product, the face, the volumes, pencil drawings. Yeah. In the meantime, I will try to find the package or fight with the engineering guys a better package or whatever. But please, first, it's like cooking or dating a girl. There's always a step, a phase, or it's a process. Yeah, you don't find a girl in the bus stop and say, "Oh, I want to marry you." Maybe it's like and with the guys, with the designers, it's the same. And then after the reviews, I explain what I expect, and when it's getting more and more precise, at the end, sometimes we're in a project, we're just working projected lines in Photoshop. It's exactly what we used to do 20 years ago with tape drawings. Just dead views, no perspective, paths. Give this to the CAD guy. He will do it perfectly for you. He will say, thank you. This is what you have to translate. Because what I understand, some of the guys are very into, this early phases, like huge tires, flashy sketches, and so on. Super. I think it's part of the process to sell your idea. Towards, not the end of the design process, but, a little bit 2-3 phases forward, they lose interest because the package is beating the shit up the guy, and the limitations and the rules and pedestrian safety. And I try to tell them there's also a beauty in the process to get your flashy sketch and translate on side view, projected, no perspective, and get the best out of it. This is also design, guys. Usually with the very young ones, but I have to say my team is super talented. They're very experienced already, and they got the process, because in the past, when the young kids, and I include myself, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, I was kind of losing interest because, track process, everything's so dull. The wheels are getting smaller. Very little of my team, of my original themes is there. But then is when we have to put more energy and learn the beauty of each process, which goes into the production line, when the guys are producing the first examples of a production car. You have to make sure that follow the suppliers and everything to understand every phase. But of course, the creative phase, the initial phases are most interesting, and you show your skills and talent. But it's not all. It's not all.
Well, the real design happens at the boring stage, doesn't it? Where you really problem solving. It's endless problem solving, endless decision making.
It's funny because for most of the kids who wants to jump in this profession, they see a lot of Instagram profiles and a lot of flashy sketches. And sometimes I get these questions from people who are not in the business, like, oh, but you sketch the whole day. And I'm like, not really. Nowadays, if I have 2 hours a week to do, I'm very happy with. But the guys, I would say they do like an hour and a half a day, because they have meetings. They sit with the CAD modelers most of the time. They go on technical meetings. They check the clay model, and the whole process starts or happens afterwards, as you said. But there's this idea that car design is like super beautiful, polished sketches, and once you are in the industry, you know that this is, I don't know, 3% of the thing, It's, it's much more, maybe not as beautiful as the artistic part. And for example, a lot of people say, oh, I sometimes I go in a meeting and say, "Oh, the artist of the company is here." I'm like, "Oh, come on!" I mean, part of the design process is artistically oriented. The beginning, and I usually when I talk about design or in a school or a presentation, I say design starts very artistically, and it ends almost like in the same level with technical engineering terms of or discussion. You have to be, you have to learn the technical limitations in order to discuss technically with the guys from construction, production, pre-development. It's really vast area, not just the artists. And usually people ask me, "Oh, but design is like art." No, not really. Art, you paint a picture, put on the wall, and that's it. Design depends on engineering to happen. It's a whole process, a very long process. But again, it takes a decade to learn, I would say.
You kind of need somebody in the business to kind of mentor you through that process, because it's not a fucking chance can you learn that at university. I mean, you might learn the fundamentals of it. There's engineering modules that you do, but nobody's going to be able to, you don't go into a studio knowing how to negotiate the position of an A-pillar, for example.
Exactly. But to me, the learning process lays on the amount of meetings that usually you say, "Oh, crap, I don't want to do it." But that's exactly where you're going to learn. Oh, I'd rather be scared. I was like that in the past also, but I had very good mentors. Oli Stefani was one, and even my brother, he was making sure and fighting to get his ideas through, even though working on 2-3 full sizes at the same time. We knew that there was kind of difficult area, technical guys discussing, okay, let's go there and learn. And then again, those meetings, at the beginning of your career, you go there, you don't understand shit, actually. It's like working on, I give you an example, working on a full-size model. It's not technical, it's just design. I was close to one of the most experienced modelers in Wolfsburg. His name was Eckhart. He had a white beard like this. He worked on the, I don't know, cars from the 70s. And then I was there. They gave Eckhart to me to work on the body side. I was like, fuck, I had to do it. This guy, he probably think I'm an Indian from South America. Like he has no idea. And one day working with him, but he was very quiet though. And I was checking the highlight over the rear wheel arch. He puts Dinox, steps back, picks a cigarette, and I go like, yeah, Eckhart, what do you think? He could speak good English. What do you think this reflection over the rear wheel shouldn't be more at the top of the tire? It's a little bit to the right side. And then he looked at me, he said, yeah, I know you say that because you're very young and you have no idea, because the plant shape of the cars are different, and that's why the reflection will be a little bit to the right side. Come here with me, look from the top. I was like, oh fuck, but we draw the reflection always on the top of the wheel, always. So this is one example. You go there, you discuss, and you learn, front of the car today, there's so many restrictions. You go to put a design in the front of the car is crazy. There's so many angles, radiuses, and if you hit someone and the children, and it's like, my God. But if you never go in these meetings and learn everything, not everything, but you have to understand a little bit of technical part to be able to go around the problems. Otherwise, you're going to just be sketching all day, and you don't sketch the right things because they probably don't work.
Yeah, it's a very, very complex thing, and I think like the whole clay process is probably really beneficial in that respect. Getting some old boy that really knows his shit to explain those things to you. Which obviously, clay's. It's not dead, but it's obviously not as prominent as what it was 10 years ago, for sure.
Yes, it was actually back in the days we were saying this is what separates the kids from, the real designers. And I remember being in Wolfsburg sketching a lot, and one day Ollie came to me and said, "Oh, JC, I want you there in the modeling floor, working with the guys on full sizes." But of course, this was creating a sort of anxiety because I had to deal with modelers. Some of them couldn't speak English. And then again, the fear of communication, fear of looking like a stupid or taping bad lines or actually not performing. And you tend to feel comfortable on your desk, making crazy, beautiful sketches. And then I said, okay, but I was winning a lot of projects because the sketches were good. But then on the full size, maybe one team leader would help, maybe some other guy. But then I said, no, I have to go through that. I have to learn working on a full size model. And honestly, this is a part of the process that I feel is missing today in order to educate the young designers a little bit better. This combination of CAD modeling, full size, is very important, I think, to understand the dimensions of the car, the volumes, and sometimes just working on the screen, it doesn't give you the right feeling. And I think there's a lost generation of designers who didn't have a chance to go through, and you will never go. But I'm happy at least that we have a combined process today.
Yeah,
I really like working in alias, milling, checking, doing some things by hands and back to computer. I think this is good. I think in the mid 90s or early 2000s, some companies decided to adopt fully digital process, and it was kind of a disaster. And then if you work fully in full size clays, it's really very slow. So we try to combine the best of both, but in a way, not having a chance to work on full size is a little bit of it's a shame. But yeah, it's the way industry goes.
That's also really good advice, though, with regards to kind of stepping out of your comfort zone and going like, yes, I probably feel more productive and comfortable in front of my screen, creating something beautiful because at least you are producing something. But then, which is obviously a lot more easy than going to go and have an awkward conversation with somebody on the on the clay plates. Could you elaborate a little bit more about how you tackled those sort of like this feeling of insecurity around this person that is maybe very, very experienced, and you are supposed to be leading the process, but you are painfully aware that maybe you need to learn something?
Yeah, very, very good question. I was, for a moment, I had to put my fear aside, look to my posters, the selected drawings, put them on the board, and say, look, guys, dear modelers, my drawings were selected by the bosses because they believe this is really cool idea, and we have to put this on the model, okay? So I had to trust myself and forget that I could perform not so bad, because at the end my drawings were very clear, the whole architecture. So I was constantly bringing the modelers to my board, and they were helping me to into this translation process, like, oh, GC, look, this, you put a little bit of light on this section, mid-tones, bit darker, look at these proportions. So I was always very friendly to all of that. I actually, in my career, I never had any sort of fight or argue with anyone. So I tried to win the guys with my character, and talking about football and stuff in Brazil. They never heard about it, or teaching a few words. And I don't know, I was always very friendly to them. And by seeing my brother and I constantly on the modeling floor, they thought, okay, those guys are actually doing good. They're always selected. And there was a time I was leading 3 full sizes at the time. That means I was talking to 9 modelers 3 project managers bringing sections, technical information. And that was already at the peak of my, people were trusting me a lot. I was really confident. That's the word I wanted to say. But it took it took a couple of years to mature this idea that you can communicate with people that maybe feel that you're too young. Some guys were really, in a modeling floor, sometimes the discussion is like, oh, that guy, oh my God, the drawings are not clear, the tapes. So I learned with my brother that taping on models was very important. I can put good tapes, of course, but I was training a lot after hours, till 8 p.m. Everybody was home. We were there and taping, long session with the bosses, lots of reviews. But some guys, they couldn't hold the tape properly. And then when you look at the boards, the drawings were like not really precise. And I know the modelers hate when they see areas that are just blacked out, like there's no definition, not a single section. And of course you can draw this way, but if you don't know how to explain what to do, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is very, very great advice as well, because it's also there are different style and different types of sketches for different parts of the process. And as you said, you've got maybe your big flashy rendering on your board, on your poster, but then you would have you would have sections and smaller detailed sketches to support those things. And if they aren't on your board, then you will constantly be producing those things to communicate exactly what it is that you are trying to achieve, or how you want to translate it, because there is no blueprint for it. You need to work that out.
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty of the process is, at the beginning, you have to convince the modelers to do what you want. It's like, okay, let's try this. Yeah, okay. And then when you see the thing materialize in front of you and the bosses come and change, you quickly react, produce these sketches, put on the wall, and you start winning this trust again, and to the point that the modelers go like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is better. Let's try, scrape the surface again and put it on. But there's a relation of trust, productivity, and execution. If one of those parts are missing in the process, you don't come up with ideas. You stand in front of the modelers without knowing what to do. The bosses hate. This is a down spiral that really keeps you away from the modeling floor. And actually, this is not what we wanted back in the last decade. To perform, to have the trust from your bosses, you needed to be on the modeling floor, executing full-size clay models, following the technical process, sketching good, presenting good. So this was what was making a good designer in the past, But it's a growing process, dealing with people, communicating, and feel like and trust yourself, And I saw a lot of people, unfortunately, failing because translating drawings into 3D is a different science. Also, most of the designers, they sketch it on the paper or on the screen. It's always flat. It's always 2D, and the 3D process is another science you have to learn. It takes long. The modelers help. Usually, you probably know that, especially when I was in California, the head of the studio, the modeling, was Hans Lapine. His father was head of Porsche design in the 70s, early 80s. Really good friend of mine. And he was head of the modeling. He liked me a lot because I treated the modelers in a very good way, and I was always there making sections and solving problems, And then he told me one day, if you want to know if you have a good designer, you just ask a modeler. And this is I think, one of the biggest truths in the business, because at the end, they know exactly about communication, ideas, execution, and there's no bullshit.
Look, I just Yeah, I mean that's it's probably a very accurate statement, and I think like again to your point of you know just being respectful, communicating, actually I'm talking about from a designer standpoint to actually try and work out how it is that you're going to translate something beforehand, to try and be as prepared as you can when you come to a modeler and saying, can you please build this for me? Which, by the way, is going to take quite a lot of time. So I think the least you could do is try and be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, and that translating exactly what you said means, for example, getting in the studio before the modelers. To me, that was a sign of respect to them. You know, I would get there maybe I don't know, an hour before them. So I would put my tapes, organize the information, and when they come to the model, they would know what to do. But I've seen a lot of people in my career coming like 10 p.m. with the coffee, like yeah, what, like super poser, and I was like, my God, this is kind of disrespectful. The guys are there waiting, not knowing what to do, and I learned a lot from very good people in the industry, and I learned a lot from very bad people that were giving not good examples to the whole chain of people involved in the process, and this kind of design hero attitude was always like, to me, horrible. Yeah. So yeah, exactly what you said, Sam, being prepared. I always had a sketchbook, and my brother also in the model. We always had a pen, try this, try that, this section. What about this theme? Well, let's move up and down. Always feeding the guys. And this is a way they see you as somebody prepared, respectful, that you know what you want to do, and you show respect for the whole process. Very, very important aspect to the young kids watching this.
That's great advice. I mean, I'm also a little bit old school like that as well, and I don't know. I don't like to go on about it too much because I've probably already said too much about it in previous episodes, but it infuriates me. It really does, because I just think that not only are you collaborating with other people, but actually, you've got probably one of the fucking coolest jobs on the planet. And, you should just be grateful for that. Nobody owes you fucking anything. And, the least, it's not just enough to show up and go like, I'm here, but actually be there, be present, have your shit together, and be respectful to everybody, because it is a team effort,
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's great to hear coming from somebody else.
Yeah, of course. And, sometimes I have to talk to people and they ask me, oh, what did you design? Or for example, there's a new product. Oh, the father of this. I go like, no, come on. Okay, this is my son, Luca, Sophia. I'm their father. I'm not father of any product. It's a team effort. The team is fantastic. And then usually I say I can give my contribution to the product. Even if I had an idea about the silhouette of the car, I will say, or mention everybody's name, or I give the chance to people to work, and also to talk. It's a team effort. There's no way. I mean, I don't like the sentence, oh, I designed that version, or I mean, it's so, at the end, this is a result of how communication works. Usually press departments, communication people, they want the sketch of someone with the signature. That's a little tricky, yeah, because I mean, the last guy to touch the surface are the guys working on Strack process. They can also say, "I did the car." And I think it's a little complicated. I think it's our responsibility, the designers, to say clearly, it's a team effort. What was your role? For example, I explained about the T-Rock to you, right? Final design was done by Marco Giumentaro. Super design. He's in California now. He's my brother's team member. The idea, the concept, the theme, fenders, Beetle, C-pillar, round lights, kind of bit forward C-pillar. This came from my model, was chosen. That was my role on the car, and then that's it. I think there's plenty of room for everybody to show the contribution. and kill this idea that you are a creator or an artist, the father of something. That in a way the press, the media, they help to promote, But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit sad.
It is. I mean, it is sad, and the thing that needs to be said as well, that ultimately one person does need to get up and present it. You can't have 100 people presenting it, but it's just, that's also kind of the aim with some of these conversations, is to highlight just how many people and different people are involved in this. That it's like this monumental amount of, their modelers, their color CMF designers. There's strategists, there are visualization artists, there are physical clay hard modelers as well, and also like even as far as designers go, there are not just one designer working on the product. Especially as it gets later on in the project, there are so many areas to design. Like it's just it would never get done if it was just one person. So I think it's just you can't get up at Geneva and say like, I want to give a shout out to 250 people. Just wait for me. We know that's not possible. But I kind of wanted to just demystify things a little bit, with these discussions. So.
Yeah, I think it's very important and puts down a little bit of the expectations on young designers' shoulders to be professional, be part of a team. And for example, in Wolfsburg back in the day, the competition was super tough, really, really tough. And multiple team leaders, a lot of talented designers. When I moved to California, we were very united. We were representing the studio. We were helping each other, sometimes, Jess Harder, the guy who designed the Super Audi show car in the beginning of 2000s, he would stop what he was doing to make some wheel proposals, or we would help each other. And there was much more sense of unity. Here in Brazil, it's the same. I think tomorrow we have a presentation to Joseph Caban, and we have a preview. Everybody helps each other. We have a beautiful presentation, and it's really a team effort. And I think it's much more responsible from us to educate people to work this way, because I think this behavior somehow comes from the thinking that if I say I'm the guy, I will be promoted in the future. But you're being also analyzed for being a team player and communicating properly with people, helping people, supporting young designers. This is also very important. More important than trying to take credits for everything. I think
110%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I think it's. Go on.
No. You carry on.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility in the industry. I'm a little bit older now. Already in HR meetings, I have to point out possible successors in some positions, color and trim, exterior, interior, identify young talents. Sometimes to run certain departments, I'm not getting the best talented sketcher. I'm looking at the guy who can resolve problems, organize multiple information, people on the right time, and getting it done. If he's talented, creative, awesome, it's a plus, But I think we're coming to a time that this kind of selfish profile doesn't fit anymore. Especially, as you said, the design department is we're getting the UX people coming with a lot of work and a lot of people working exterior, interior, the experience to buy a car, to feel a car, to smell the car. There's tons of people working, it's not the exterior guy. Oh, that guy designed that thing. Okay, but so many people involved. I try to advocate in this direction.
On that subject, JC, what is your stance on career planning? Do you I mean, you mentioned it earlier on. Are you kind of like a strategist with regards to like when you first got in the studio, you were like, I want to reach this point one day, or was it a natural evolution over time?
Okay, very, very
And the
good question.
and the second part to that, like what would you suggest on that subject?
Okay, very good question, Sam. You know, when I was 12, I got that letter. I was like, oh my God, you know, if one day I have a table and I can sit with other designers and make some sketches, I would be very thankful. And then I got in the studio. I was there drawing. You know, wasn't so easy. Of course, had to improve my skills. But then I was like, oh, I have to learn more. I want to make, you know, maybe not a facelift. Maybe I can design a car completely. And then when you design a car completely, I was always setting my bar a little bit higher. I never thought I would be a chief designer, director. No. But to a certain point, I thought, maybe I can. I look up, maybe I can do more. So I moved to Germany. I had to perform in front of everybody my first full-size model. At first was shit, and then I was improving, a bit shy, just sketching too much. Presentations were shit, verbally speaking, but super sketches, always selected to work on models. Then I work on a Jetta, Passat, Polo, very important cars. And then I thought, wow, okay. One day, I was so disconnected with this career thing that Oli Stefani called me and my brother in his office. And I thought, oh, fuck, you know, about that shit I did. He said, I want to talk seriously with you guys. For example, he was driving a Touareg in the company, parking the car in front of the studio. I didn't know why he was driving a Touareg. I know, okay, he's the boss, but I had no idea about salary grading, team structure, promotions. I had no idea. I was super happy to have a German contract and be there with super talented people. And then he said, look, talk to Klaus and Walter. We think that we want to give you guys possibility to promote and the structure. And this is very important, very good for you guys. It will be very good in the future to be part of the executive team. Can maybe get a little bit more money, car, gasoline, all the benefits from the positions. I was like, yeah, okay, cool, Ali, super. I was happy to go back to my desk and keep sketching. You know, I didn't have the dimension of that. Years later, when I got an offer from other company and I talked to Oliver, they speed up our process of promotion. I started to understand, and then I got this first level of team leiter, they call. And then, wow, okay, cool. Then I went to California. When Sangyup left, there was discussions, and the whole team was coming to me. Oh, JC, you should be the exterior chief, man. You're working with us already 2 years, you know. And people were like kind of expecting. And I said, okay, wow, exterior chief would be super cool. And I stay a little longer in California. And then after 5 years in California, Klaus called me because that guy who answered my letter when I was 12 was retiring in Brazil. And he asked me, you want to go down to Brazil, your country, you were born there? I was like, yeah. For me, it was a step up because I'm overseeing the whole structure, color trim, modeling, exterior, interior. And I thought, wow, to succeed Luiz would be awesome. Imagine, the guy sent me a letter, gave me a chance, and then I came back to Brazil to succeed him. It was fantastic. And I was just 38 when I got this position, you know, 5 years ago. So, and I look back, I was like, fuck, you know, I opened that letter when I was 12 and now I'm here on his desk.
Full circle, 360.
Exactly. And I felt like, wow, okay, I think now I deserved, because back then I left my country, my language, my parents, everything, to go to Germany, didn't know shit about it, had to learn. Then the US, full circle, geographically speaking as well. And then I felt like, wow, now I'm kind of respected for what I know and what I learned. And I don't look up so much, like, oh my God, I have so much to learn. Of course, I learn every day. I'm learning some 3D modeling on my iPad, you know, this sketch gravity thing. I'm doing some oil painting also, and I'm always trying to do something more. But I felt like, wow, cool. Um, Ahead of me, I don't know. I have a very good relation in the group with all the I know all the brand chiefs, and there's always a lot of mobility within the group. So maybe something in the future. Right now, I'm happy here. Of course, I know myself. I want to do more in the future. Have great relation with Joseph Caban, and let's see what happens in the future. And you asked me something more. I forgot. Sorry.
No, I actually don't want to ask you anything more, dude, because that's such a great way to end off, honestly, because you've organically taken us on a 360 tour. So I'm not going to waste your time with asking you any more stupid questions.
No, I think you were referring to advice to kids, right? About career.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I mean, I think the question was like, how important is it to career plan? Because before you answer the question, I think if you're a very ambitious person, I think maybe it is important to kind of think about those things. At the same time, I think it's also important. I'm kind of answering it for you, but I want you to give your own thing on this. But I also want to talk about the flip side to that part, because there are also some amazing people that are crazy, crazy talented that are just not cut out to be directors or big chiefs or whatever the case is. And that is okay. And that's awesome. There are people that have had great, great careers out of just making awesome shit in the shadows.
Yeah.
And it's important to know that there are different types of people, and that ultimately, there are there's a place for everybody, basically. And I think it comes down to self-awareness. So I'm sorry for fucking answering it for you, but maybe you can tell me what your spin on that is.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of different profiles in this industry. If you talk to Art, for instance, we always talk, and he's like, no, this is not for me. I'd rather be focused on design, and he's super talented for that. In my case, dude. Yeah, great, amazingly. And in my case, I understood that responsibility was given to me more like capacity to organize things, execute, and be flexible. I was never beating the bosses like, fuck, I don't want to do that, your shit idea. Once I was with Walter De Silva working in front of the model, he came with the idea. It was a kind of a fish mouth. Was a little bit, and I stepped back, and he was like 4 days trying this in the front of the model. And one day he came to me, he looked at my sketchbook and said, JC, yours is better, do it. That was fantastic, That was like, I was like, wow, Walter De Silva telling me my little theme for the bumper is better. But at the same time, I think he thought, wow, this dude here is patient, flexible, wants to work together. So I was always getting more responsibility for being a team member, a piece in the whole puzzle, and not like, this crazy ambition to be the top guy, like the face of a brand or something. No. It was really like, I learned this with Klaus. He told me once, you have to get in the position 5 years, and then 5 years, and then 5 years. If I look back on my portfolio, it's almost like that, 5 years in each position, learning, being solid, and ready for the next challenge. And I see sometimes some kids like, wow, how I answered a question once like, how you do to become a chief designer? I was like, what? Guys, come on. Can you hold a pen first? Put your ideas step by. This will come in the very future if you're able to do so many other things rather than just drawing. It has to do with team player, communication, being able to respect people, be flexible. That's my advice. And okay, down part of it, I really miss I talk to my guys. I say, guys, you're just listening to music all day, sketching. Come, I would like to have one day just experiencing this again. Most of the times I'm in a meeting with technical departments, cost reduction, HR, communication. I have maybe 2 reviews, 3 a week with my team where they present the proposals, 3D model evolution, content discussion. But, sometimes I have to discuss the back wall for the launch of whatever product. Or today I was in a meeting about cost reduction for the floor mat in the car, the trunk, this kind of stuff. And I talk to my guys, they go, come on, this is so boring, fuck, go out, I don't want to know about it. But it's not creative, it's not fancy, but somebody has to do it. But I compensate that always with my iPad under my arms, sketching, my painting, and not giving up on the artistic, on my drawing. Yeah, the other day I said the drawing ability gave everything to me, everything, to solving something in front of a modeler, of a boss, creating proposals. If I give up on that, it's almost like denying my roots. So, but yeah, that's the difficult part of it.
JC, I really didn't know what to expect of this conversation, but I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it, dude. And there's so much interesting stuff that you had to say, and your perspective and your experience and your general down-to-earth attitude was awesome, dude. It was so fucking cool. And the industry needs leaders like you. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
Man, thank you so much. As always, I've been following your stuff for quite a long time, and I saw Art, and of course he helped to organize. Art did an awesome interview. He said, "Oh, JC and Marco, they are monsters," and he didn't explain the most important thing. Those things are not good, not so important, about profession. But I used to kick his ass playing FIFA. In the PlayStation back years ago. No, we're really good friends, and thanks a lot for your words. And I heard, I'm happy to look back and feel I'm comfortable to say all those words, because this is how I work. This is how I do it. And if you ask a team member or somebody in California or Europe who work with me, they know this is really my style. I'm still small in the whole industry to advocate in this kind of leading perspective or style, but I think that's the way to go. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, dude. Thank you so much, JC.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay.